Now, I don't know if you guys knew this, but the Acolyte series by Disney and Lucasfilm cost them roughly $180 million. Now, if you do the math, divided by 8 for 8 episodes, that's around $22 million and change per episode. That is massive for a series like this, that is not connected to any familiar characters, that is not connected to anything familiar at all, except for, let's say, for example, the Jedi Temple and stuff like that so far. But there's been a lot of things going into the financial situation revolving around the Acolyte series and all the drama that's been going on behind the scenes over at the Walt Disney Company and Lucasfilm headquarters. Let's dive into this, shall we? This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So, why does the Acolyte feel so phony? Well, there's multiple factors that go into this, and I like to bring up 3 things. The dialogue is clunky, there's a lot of plot points that are stolen directly from other popular franchises and films out there in pop culture, and number 3, you got Leslye Headland, who really created the press disaster, the press tour disaster of the Acolyte series, based on all the interviews that she's been giving, based on all the nonsense that she's been spewing out there for the Acolyte show and attacking the Star Wars fans. And that, by the way, is just the beginning. Just wait for what looms with, of course, the Acolyte episode 3 on June 12th. Again, mark your calendars, it will be a historic moment in Star Wars and not for the better. So focusing on this, we know that there's a lot of things going on with the Acolyte series and the financial status of the show and its impact essentially on Disney and Lucasfilm and exactly what recently transpired. Let's get into this. Now, ever since the Acolyte, of course, episode 2 and episode 1 combined, the premiere of it all on Disney+, both Leslye Headland and Kathleen Kennedy, along with the Amandla Stenberg actress, the star of the show, have been desperately doing damage control for the series to no end. However, one major development happening right now for the Acolyte and the Disney heads is even more alarming for Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy's position with Star Wars after another emergency meeting took place over the current direction of the Star Wars brand. Between both Bob Iger and the board of directors running into a phase of panic after Disney analysts projected a massive dip in Star Wars viewership on Disney Plus after the debut of the Acolyte premiere, this reportedly already led Bob Iger to cutting back on funds drastically for the marketing campaign for the Acolyte series now by roughly 52%, which will mean far less TV spots on television, to the point where it will eventually be nearly non-existent over time. Their marketing campaign for the Acolyte is also getting pulled back with less interviews planned for the month of July, after, of course, the press tour disaster. However, to many things, of course, make matters worse is that Disney analysts already reported to the Disney heads that Star Wars merchandise took a nasty hit with a 5% fall in the Disney parks after the Acolyte released. In addition to this, Disney reportedly already invested $20 million, get this, into the Acolyte Season 2, which is now cancelled and axed behind the scenes. Essentially, the $20 million that Disney recently lost and invested into the Acolyte Season 2, that is no more, had to do with major set pieces that were built and constructed specifically for the Acolyte Season 2, which they planned to begin filming in 2025 within the first quarter, to release, of course, the next season in early 2026. Now, these sets are now being taken down and essentially deconstructed to use them as salvage for, of course, pieces for other projects in the future. With the value of the sets taking a massive hit after the Acolyte Season 2 got cancelled, that reportedly threw both Leslye Headland and Kathleen Kennedy into endless heated conversations with the Disney heads, including Bob Iger, and they're already beginning to take action in a desperate move to get Acolyte Season 2 reinstated. In addition to this, dozens of very expensive props were also created for the Acolyte Season 2 that are now described as useless, that cost Disney an estimated $2 million in props, along with wardrobe pieces for the High Republic era that are now going completely in the trash, costing Disney around $600,000. Right now, Bob Iger's strategy, not so surprisingly, is to further advance his DEI agenda with another Star Wars Wars series that will take another shot at doing the same thing that Leslye Headland did, except with a different showrunner this time, as his game plan to gain trust from the critics. Many will agree that none of Bob Iger's logic makes any sort of sense, since this will only do more damage to the Star Wars brand and whatever fans are left hanging on to Disney Star Wars. Also, Leslye Headland's contract was reportedly very expensive as well, and a very complex contract at that as well. With Leslye, of course, getting involved in the constant drama, with Leslye also getting fired and removed from many actual projects attached to both Star Wars and Marvel, and one spin-off remains that she's attached to, by the way. She was also let go from new Marvel-related projects that she was going to work on with Kevin Feige. Not just that, but Bob Iger and the board also made an agreement in the most recent emergency meeting that they will officially be canceling all Acolyte-related merchandise for some of the Disney theme parks and, of course, around the globe for retail stores. Now, guys, let me just stop here before I move on again. This just goes to show you how much of an impact a terrible series can have on all fronts for Star Wars. Whether it's merchandise, whether it's the theme park, or whether it's, of course, everything related to what people are watching on Disney+. You know, I ran a very recent poll on Twitter/X, I don't know if you guys have seen it, whether or not the Disney Star Wars era has lost your love with the originals and the prequels, and I really got a very interesting poll there where it was almost split. It was like pretty much, 54-46 to be exact. 54 yes, 46 no. And that's very revealing, and that may be a small margin, I get that, as Kathleen Kennedy likes to put it sometimes. But what's interesting about that is that this just goes to show you that it's not review bombing when it comes to the Acolyte. Alright? There's a lot of people out there totally upset with the series. They want nothing to do with this thing. They are so fed up with Star Wars. They are so apathetic to the point where they don't really even care about what bad series are coming out in the later half of this year, for 2026, and beyond. And yes, guys, by the way, we have another show coming out this year. It's called Skeleton Crew. It's going to be another disaster, let me just say that. But moving on. Not just that, but Bob Iger and the board also all agreed in the most recent meeting that they will officially be canceling all Acolyte-related merchandise for retail stores as well. And whatever retail stores decide to sell some of that merchandise, it will be marked down drastically. We're talking like 70 to 80% levels here. So that really is a very big deal for the current financial situation with the Acolyte. Everything revolving from, merchandise like figures, lightsabers, and just stuff like that you kind of got a very interesting thing out of it. We know that this happened in a very similar way when they tried to sell Reva's lightsaber with the Kenobi series, and it failed terribly. Alright, the backers just backed out, and it really went nowhere. And that just goes to show you that, look, when you have these characters that are written to promote their DEI agenda over proper character development, people are not going to want to buy a product related to that character. For example, we have a character called Vernestra, I believe that's her name, in the Acolyte. It's played by Leslye Headland's wife, the green-faced woman, who has a lightsaber whip. Alright, so I don't think that's going to go anywhere as well. But anyway, I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.